In this lesson we're talking about the conversion of units. So the sorts of things that we're interested in is to convert from centimetres to millimetres, and maybe back the other way, or maybe kilometres to metres. That's the sort of lengths that we might be converting. Okay, so they're just lengths. But we might also be interested in converting areas. So we might be doing centimetres squared backwards and forwards to millimetres squared, or perhaps centimetres squared backwards and forwards to metres squared, or perhaps kilometres squared backwards and forwards to metres squared, etc. So those are areas. We might also be looking at volumes, so we might be looking at centimetres cubed. Their volumes, remember, the cubed, backwards and forwards to millimetres cubed, or perhaps centimetres cubed, backwards and forwards to metres cubed, or perhaps kilometres cubed. It's a very big volume, backwards and forwards to perhaps metres cubed. So those are volumes. There's some very basic things that you need to remember. You need to remember that 1 millimetre is 1/10 of a centimetre, or perhaps 10 centimetres is, 10 centimetres is 1/10 of a metre, or perhaps you might want to look at 1 centimetre is 10 millimetres. So these two are sort of the other way round from each other, and 1 metre is 100 centimetres. So these are the sorts of very basic things that you need to know, and of course you might want to do, let's say, so we're going to convert 23 metres into centimetres. And this is the way I suggest you do all of these questions, even the harder questions. What we're going to write is 23 metres is equal to, now let's look at this metre here, just the metre, that's 1 metre, okay, that M is 1 metre. The 23 means 23 lots of that 1 metre, making 23 metres. So 1 metre is how many centimetres? Well, that's 100 centimetres. So what we've got then is the 23 that's from before, and then we've got 100 centimetres. So this 1 metre is exactly the same as 100 centimetres. Now the brackets mean multiplication, so this is equal to 23 times 100 centimetres. And of course we just multiply the 23 by 100 by adding 2 noughts, and we get 2300 centimetres, or 2300 centimetres. So the trick here is to write your units. So we're converting from metres into centimetres, write the metres, and then say, well, how many centimetres is that 1 metre? Okay, let's do another question. Excuse me. So, another question. Convert 42.3 kilometres into metres. Okay, so here we go. 42.3 kilometres. Let's first of all start off with our kilometre and think, how many metres is that? Well, a kilometre is 1,000 metres. So this is equal to, there's our 42.3. We'll just write that in the same colour. 42.3. And now we write our kilometres. So we've got, instead of kilometre, 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres. So those are now the same, exactly the same. These are just multiplied together now. So we have, this is equal to 42.3 times 1,000, which is 42300. 42,300, and then we must put our units metres. So that's a very basic examples. What we'll look at now is something a little bit more complicated. So this question's going to talk about areas and converting units of areas. So the question says, convert 22 meters squared into centimeters squared. So here's our answer. So we start off with our 22 meters squared, and we change our meters, which is there, into centimeters. Now a meter is 100 centimeters. So that's that bit there. Now notice that red box is being squared, so we must still square it, and we still got a 22 there. Okay, so notice that this 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Now the thing is that whole box on the right hand side here is being squared, so really what we need is a bracket around there. So the next thing we're going to do is to multiply this bracket out. Remember that any two quantities, a times b, and if you square that, then this is a squared times b squared. So you take the a and square that, and you take the b and you square that. So this 22 is still there. Then you take the 100 and you square it, and then you take the centimetre and you square it. Okay, so you can see that this is the same pattern here. A, B, all squared is a squared, b squared. This is our a, 100. This is our b, centimetres. So it's 100 centimetres. All squared is 100 squared, centimetres squared. And that's where this is, 100 squared, centimetres squared. Now 100 squared is 100 times 100, which is 10,000, and then we have the centimetres squared at the end. And then we need to multiply 22 times 10,000, which is 220,000 centimetres squared. Okay, so don't guess these, just write the units that you've been given here, giving it in metres squared. Take the metres and rewrite that as 100 centimetres, but that needs to be squared because that's squared here. Let's do another example. So this example is always, also in your notes that we did in class. So this question asks us to convert 40 kilometres per hour into meters per second. Okay, that's the question. Now the first thing to remember is per means divide. So another way of writing 40 kilometers per hour is 40 kilometers per hour. And we want to put that into meters per second. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this kilometers and we're going to write that in meters. Now, a kilometre is 1,000 meters. So those two red boxes are the same. The 40 still sits outside the box. And now we want to convert the hours. So let's put a blue box around that. Hours, we want that in seconds. There's our division sign there. And we want this in seconds. So an hour is 60 minutes in an hour and 60 seconds in a minute. So this is now seconds. So this hour is 60 times 60 seconds. Okay, so those two things are equal now. The kilometre, the 1 kilometre there is 1,000 metres, and the 1 hour, I'll do this one in red, sorry about that. Let's just undo that. And the 1 hour is 60 times 60 seconds. So now what we need to do is to just simply sort out this fraction. So let's do some cancelling of some zeros. So we can cancel a 0 there with that one, a 0 there with that one, and we're left with 40 times 10 at the top. 40 times 10 meters. 40 times 10 is 400. And divided by, what are we left with at the bottom? We're left with 6 times 6, which is 36. And we're left with seconds. So now we just cancel down. So 200, half of 400 is 200, half of 13 is 18, half of 200 is 100, half of 18 is 9. So it's 100 divided by 9 meters per second. Okay, so once more, take the kilometers, write meters. 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. Hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds in each minute. Then cancel down the fractions, being careful, and get 100 over 9 meters per second. Now, you can also get some questions which are going in the opposite direction. So rather than going from a larger unit like a kilometre into a smaller unit like a metre, we could do something similar. So let's have a go at something like that. Another question could be, convert 200 kilometers squared into meters squared. So we start with our 200 kilometers squared, and we're going to take our kilometers and we're going to rewrite that. Oh, beg your pardon, I wanted it the other way around, didn't I? So, I beg your pardon, I said we're going to start with a small quantity this time. So we want kilometers squared there. Let's just do that in the same colour. Okay, so let's just start with 200 meters squared into kilometers squared. Now, 1 meter is how many kilometers? Well, a meter is, you know, half the length of yourself. A kilometre is obviously much, much longer. So there is 1,000 meters in a kilometre. So this must be 1,000ths of a kilometre. Okay, so 1 metre is 1,000th of a kilometre. Now notice that red box on the left here is being squared. So we must remember to square the red box on the right. Now 200 still sits there. That's this 200 here. So that lives there. Put an equal sign in the middle. And, oops, sorry about that. And we continue. Now I've got to be careful now with our squaring out. So the 200 sits outside the squaring. That's not being squared. The numerator of this fraction is a kilometre. 1 kilometre. And you square 1 kilometre, you get 1 kilometre squared. And on the denominator, we're going to square the 1,000, which is 1,000 times 1,000, which is 1,000,000. So we're left with this, and now we can cancel down some zeros, and we're left with 2 over 10,000, which is the same as 1 over 5,000 kilometres squared. Sorry, this is 10,000, so it's 5,000, that's right. In other words, we are cancelling down the 2 there with a 5 there. Now 1 over 5,000 is a pretty small number, so if you wanted to write that as a decimal, you would get 0.0002 kilometres squared.